Oh yeah.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Two Blokes, a Beer and a Podcast. Joey here. Craig is also with me. Craig, how's your week been, mate?
Good, mate. Good. Still buzzing after that semi-final, mate.
Oh,
That's what semi-finals is all about.
it
And
is, mate.
obviously gutted for the Raiders, but man, amazing effort. What a game.
Absolutely tight win. We just watched that 30 to 28. If you haven't seen it yet, incredible
Incredible.
performance. If you
Incredible
haven't watched
performance.
it, go and watch the highlights, or actually just watch the whole game because it was an incredible game there. But mate, let's get into it. Of course, Two Blokes, a Beer and a Podcast. We're a podcast. It's more the lighter side of rugby league. We like to talk off-field stuff, have a bit of fun, review some beers, talk about Craig's chick flicks, and just just have a good time, mate. We just like to have a good time, and I think that's what it's all about. So, to start off tonight, I wanted to talk to you a bit of rugby league. Let's talk a few game managers. Now, during the week, I was watching Cooper Cronk talk, and he's one that always sticks out for me as such a game manager in rugby league, whether he was at the Storm or at the Roosters. And just hearing him speak, he has such a footy brain, and he was able to dissect the game like nobody ever could. He knew every single part of the game, and I just wanted to take a bit of a trip down memory lane. What are some players that you remember that were just clinical game managers for their team?
Well, the man you just said was the first one that jumped in, Cooper Cronk. And I think
Yeah,
what I loved about Cooper is, he was not hidden, but he had great plays around him in Melbourne with Smith, who was probably the best manipulator and game manager of them all.
that's
But then he
right.
went to the Roosters and just showed he didn't need those two guys to do it. So, and Cam Smith, I think he was the best. He could manage referees. He could manage.
Yeah,
He knew what he was doing. Um, before that, go back earlier in times. I think we spoke about it off air. Joey Johns was
oh,
he was good as far as managing his team
yeah.
and playing the clock down. He knew when to kick the ball out, all those things. But they're probably the main ones jumping out at me.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to take you back a bit further. For me, someone like a Desi Hasler was a really good game manager. I just thought the way that Desi could control a game, I wouldn't say that he was great with referees and that sort of stuff, but just the way he was able to control the game for Manly back in those early days, I thought Desi Hasler was a really good game manager. Mate, are you drinking tonight?
Mate, I do have a beer. I
What do
do.
you
I
got?
do. I've had it poured in here. Mate, I've got a Capital Brewery. So they're a
Oh,
Canberra brew.
very
And they're
nice.
actually now exporting outside of Canberra, which is really, really
Oh,
good.
great.
But I've got their Coast Ale, which is a really nice, similar to an IPA, but really nice drop.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm on the Coke tonight. Coke, no sugar.
No
Do have,
sugar, nice.
do have an early
Like
start in the morning, mate. I am a bit of it could be a bit of a softie as well, but nah, just no beer
nothing
for
wrong with
me
not having
tonight.
a beer, mate. Love it.
So that's me. All right, the next part we wanted to talk on, I was saying to you off air, wanted to speak about some sporting goats. Now, not necessarily just rugby league, but sports that we've watched growing up where there's just been a standout player or a few standout players. And let's just go through a few of them and talk about why they were goats for us. Did you want to start off, mate?
Mate, my all-time GOAT would be Steve Waugh, cricket. And I remember growing up, he was my dad's favorite sports person of all time.
Yeah,
And Steve Waugh, he didn't have that Shane Warne appeal to him or that Ricky Ponting or Michael Bevan. He was like a real level head, quiet sort of guy. So it wasn't until I actually got a little bit older that I started to respect him when he was still playing.
mm,
You could just see the way that he managed the team and the game and his mentality that was around getting a team up was just incredible. So for me, he's my all-time favorite. And I got to meet him a few years ago, which was like just the best feeling. It was
yeah, I
awesome.
love that. For me, cricket, it was Adam Gilchrist.
Yeah.
He was my goat. The way Gilly transformed the game. Wicket keepers back then, they weren't really known as great batsmen.
If they could get a few runs, great.
That's right.
Yeah.
They did a job.
Yeah.
They did a job, usually coming in at number 7. But the way he changed the game, even in one day, is and he used to open with Matty Hayden. And, mate, the way that Gilly could score, he was just so free about it. And, I mean, a bloody good wicketkeeper as well. So he's my goat when it comes to cricket. Of course, the late
Nice.
great Shane Keith Warren, you can't go
Oh,
past as
I
well.
was about to say, how can you
The
not mention him? Yeah.
the spin king, mate. He smoked, he drank, and he bowled a bit of
Yeah.
leg spin. Absolute champion of the game. But I look at other sports as well. We look at basketball, and of course you got Michael Jordan, and I think that's the typical answer. But I want to throw a different one out, who I think has probably become the GOAT over time, and that's LeBron James. I've been
Yep.
incredible. It's been really good to watch LeBron's journey. I like a bit of basketball and watch it from time to time, and the way he's come through, everyone knew he was going to be a star. He was just so good at a young age. And I think it's been great to watch his transformation. And, he's been to a few teams, but he just does a job at every team he's at. So LeBron for me would be a basketball GOAT, Michael Jordan, the OG. Cricket now, though, it's Nathan Lyon. Gary, love Gaz.
Yep.
He's my GOAT in the modern era. I just love what he does. He's got over almost at 500 test wickets. He'd be the third highest Australian when it comes to test wickets under McGrath and Warne, which is just incredible stuff. But let's talk about rugby league, mate, and what we've come here for. GOATs in rugby league. I mean, Joey Johns has always been a big favourite of mine.
He'll always be mine, mate. I
Yeah,
just
he's
watching him and just studying his game when he played. So it wasn't just the highlight reel.
yeah,
I loved watching him live when, not that it happened very often, but what he was doing in the back play that the cameras don't see.
yeah,
Just his coordination, telling the centers like Gidley, right, get ready for this. This is what I'm doing next. Ben Kennedy, get up here, get ready for this. Like, he just didn't stop. And you don't
yeah.
always see that on TV. So yeah, he will always be my all-time in rugby league.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a few for me. Definitely Joey Johns. If we look back further than Joey, uh, I think a few players for me. I want to go forward because obviously I was a forward myself. But Glenn Lazarus, mate, the brick with
Oh yeah,
eyes.
3 grand
The,
finals, 3 clubs, amazing. Only player to do
incredible.
it.
Yeah, incredible stuff. And the guy could play footy. I mean, he was built like a brick, you know what, but you couldn't stop him. I just thought he was such a goat for his time in the forward
Yeah.
pack. You look at the likes of him and Blocker Roach, those sort of boys that just dominated up front. There's been heaps of rugby league. I think we look at the modern era and, probably not so much this year, but James Tedesco was heading that way probably before this year. His trajectory was going up. He obviously dampened a little bit this year, but I even look at someone like Latrell. And when he came into the competition at the Roosters and the form he was in, won back-to-back comps, all before he was 24 years of age, and just the way that he could change a game as well. I really found him as a bit of a goat, probably more an X factor player if we go with that. But
Yeah.
the way he was able to do it, but they're just some of them at the moment, mate. Did you, by any chance, watch any chick flicks this week or a quiet one?
No chick flicks. I'm back into the series Yellowstone, so
Oh,
that's
very nice.
yeah. I watched that for a while, then I paused it. Now I've started it from the start, so I'm into that. I did go to watch a movie late last night in bed. I went to watch it. It was a rom-com. I can't remember what it was, but I was about 5 minutes into it, made my head hit the pillow, and I was gone. So yeah, I was out cold. But
I've been on
there's
sorry, yeah.
no, you go.
I've been on Only Murders in the Building. It's a series on Disney Plus. It's really good.
Yeah,
It's got
right.
Steve Martin in it and Martin Short as well.
Oh,
And
Martin Short,
yeah,
he's a good actor.
he's
Yeah.
good. Him and Steve Martin have been friends for a long time, and it's a
Geez,
really good.
they must be pushing
They
on.
are. They're in their 70s, and basically, Selena Gomez is in it too. And they make a podcast based on murders that have happened in their building, and it's a bit of a comedy as well. So it's really funny.
Yeah,
So if
nice.
you
I'll
get a
check it out.
chance, yeah, check it out. It's
Yeah,
on Disney Plus. But yeah, what were you saying, mate?
nice. I can't remember what I was saying, but when you just said Steve Martin and Martin Short, just remind me, I read a thing, Al Pacino, 83, and just his missus gave birth. His 29-year-old missus gave birth.
Yeah, wow,
Father at 83. Far out.
wow.
I mean, it's impressive. Like yeah,
Is it?
yeah, I mean, he's doing all right, but
Yeah, yeah.
I bet you he's not sitting there on a Saturday night watching rom-coms after the West Tigers lose.
Well, no, we know what he was doing. He's just
No,
had
he
a
was
child,
doing,
so
yeah. He just
yeah,
had
he's
5 pills, 5 blue
Al,
pills, and off he
Al
went.
Pacino's been very, very busy. I mean, when you got that sort of status, you can be, can't you? I mean, not so much us, but Anyway, we'll move on from there, mate. The next part we want to talk about, I mentioned it a little bit before with Latrell, but let's chat on X factor players. And I think the term is loosely used a lot these days rather than it used to be. You look at the players like, Clint Gufferson for Parramatta who can change a game, but I want us to go back before the 2000s and let's look at players that would have been X factor players, but they weren't called X factor players. So one that I had, and it wasn't. I wouldn't say he's an immortal or in that sort of status, but he could change a game, and that was the Pearl, Steve Renouf. Just the
Yep.
way that you could
Yeah.
give the ball to Steve, and he could make something happen from nothing. He could just turn it on. He had, he was so electric. He had the speed. He could just turn it on. I look at a lot of the Parramatta boys as well from the late 80s as well. Brett Kenny was a good one. Brett
Yeah.
Kenny at 5'8", he could literally score a try from anywhere, could set up, just such an X-factor player. But are there any that stick out to you, mate?
Well, I know we're going back before the 2000s, but if I can just sort of go 5 years into that, X factor player I look at is Benji Marshall and what
Oh,
he
for
did
sure.
throughout his career. He definitely brought that. But going back to the 90s, the one that jumped out to me when you said let's go back to the 90s and below was a great player, played the majority of his career at your club, but he played number 14 a lot for New South Wales and
Oh,
he
yeah.
could change a game, and that was Craig Wing.
Craig Wing.
He was
Absolutely.
he was amazing. Yeah.
Would have been a starting hooker at any other club.
Yeah.
He was so versatile as well. Could play half as well, 5'8".
Fullback in his earlier
Yeah,
career, he could,
that's right.
and not a bad looker either, mind you.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
no, definitely. He reminded me of a younger me, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a good player, Wingy. There's definitely been a few. I mean, that Broncos team of the early '90s had so many. You even look at the
Oh,
Dell. I mean,
I was
the
about to say, Joe, the
the
Dell. I
Dell.
remember
Yeah,
I've heard it a few times. Brad Fittler saying he was playing for, maybe it was Penrith back then before.
yeah, it would have
I'm
been.
not sure, but they were playing Brisbane, and whoever was supposed to be playing for Brisbane, I can't remember the player's name now, but he was ruled out, and Fittler was like, "You beauty, Willie Cahn's out. Willie Cahn's out. How good is
Oh
that?"
yeah.
And his replacement was Wendell Saylor, who just absolutely terrorized them. And Freddie was saying, like 10 minutes in, he was like, "I wish Billy Calm was playing." Mate, he was, yeah.
He
I
was
remember
great.
watching Origin with him, the big Dell, and
Mm,
just the passion that he brought. And just, he made, remember he and Dougal used to go at each other? I
yeah,
don't think
yeah.
him and Adam McDougall, they were some great challenges there.
Well,
But
he probably started the bigger side of wingers. Like now we see wingers who are built. They're all massive. They got massive legs. But back then they weren't. Like wingers were
that's right.
known as
Yeah.
your
That's
scrawny
right.
young
The
kids.
shit
But
player that couldn't get in a start in the middle, you throw him out
yeah,
on. Yeah.
exactly. But the
Yeah.
Dell was built, man. I mean, the size of him. I mean, he could score from anywhere, and he had the speed for a big guy as well. So, yeah, Dell definitely an X factor player. It's interesting the term X factor because we saw a bit of debate with the Clint Gufferson Parramatta saga earlier in the year,
Oh,
where they talked about looking for an X factor player. And it's a term that I don't really understand. I mean, I think it depends on the year. It depends on the season that your club's in. You look at the Bulldogs, when they had Ben Barber, he was an X factor player in that
yeah.
one
Yeah.
season. One
Yeah.
season. But then the next year, he had too many off field distractions and a lot of stuff go on. Jamie Soward, when the Dragons won in 2010, he was their X factor player. So it's very seasonal. I think a player
Yeah.
can be an X
And
factor
Ponga.
player. Yeah,
Ponga's
Ponga.
another prime example there.
Absolutely.
And when I say Benji, I say when Benji was an X factor, it was in 2005. It wasn't out his whole career. It was, as you say, his season.
Yeah, yeah. Very seasonal. But yeah, I thought that was good. Just chat on some little X factors. Latrell, as I mentioned before, big X factor. We know he can turn a game. Not much going on in South Sydney at the moment, but he can turn a game on its head. He has that ability to do that, and I think that's pretty much what describes an X factor player. But
Yeah.
mate,
Agreed.
let's chat our favourite thing, a bit of the footy show again. I've gone through some highlights. I was watching the other day, and I want to talk the later footy show. I want to talk about some hosts. Now, obviously, our favourite hosts were Fatty, Sterlo, the Chief, and Matty. But Do you remember when Michael Slater came on as host with Fatty?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Slats was
Mate,
host for a bit.
he's not doing too well these days. Like
No,
he's not on TV or anything anymore.
yeah,
But yeah, that's right. He's a Manly supporter.
yeah, he
And
is. But he
he's
also
back.
he also had no idea what he was talking about as well
No,
because he was
no,
a
no
cricketer,
idea.
and it was hilarious to watch when he was hosting with Fatty and stuff would come up and Slats just was looking around. He had no idea what was going on, and I mean that was the pre-Aaron days. But yeah,
That's
I
right.
just
Yeah, I
I
forgot
remembered
about
that.
that.
Yeah, yeah, Michael Slater and the Fat, they were co-hosts, and obviously they had the big man. He used to come on and he would do a
Small
segment.
talk.
Yeah, small
That was
talk.
the
Oh,
best. Yeah.
small talk was so good. Those
Yeah.
kids are hilarious,
No
man.
filter.
But
You want the truth, you go to a kid.
that's it, always. Oh, don't we know that? But
Yeah.
another segment he did, it was what's the big man outraged about this week? And it was so funny because he'd come out with like, people are putting tomato sauce in the cupboard or something, and the big man was outraged because it needs to go in the fridge or
Yeah.
whatnot. But
Yeah.
I just love it because he looks so cuddly, and so when he gets outraged, you're not really scared. You're sort of laughing because
Yeah.
the big man doesn't look outraged at all. But oh mate, they were just some funny moments. I just was thinking back and looking because for me that was the footy show that I more watched. Obviously, being I was a bit older at that stage, and so I remember it well. And then obviously Bo Ryan and the Bo Nose segment, mate. I mean, absolute classics.
Oh,
He
that
went
was amazing.
everywhere. He went
Yeah. Yeah.
everywhere. Bo Nose Benji was one of my favourites.
Yeah.
Going
Yeah.
into New Zealand there and speaking like a Kiwi, and
I
oh,
love these. I think it was you that reminded me of it because I forgot about it. But when he would do the Susan Boyle
oh
and the G Train and the Sammy Boyle
yeah,
impersonations.
Sonny Bill TV. Hey,
Yeah,
bro.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was
G
so funny.
Train. Yeah.
G Train, and then yeah, he
Susan Boyle.
yeah,
I'm here to sing a song. Yeah,
and then, yeah, and then
gotta love a good
she was
impersonation.
married to Semi Boyle.
Sammy Boyle. Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
you know me, Joey. I love a good impersonation.
yes, mate. Yes, mate. You're very good at it, as
Yeah.
people would have heard. But yeah, mate. Oh, some of the Bono segments for me, I used to watch them religiously. He's such a funny dude. He's
Yeah.
such a
What
funny
happened?
guy.
So, like,
Yeah,
he walked out of his last year at Channel 9. It
yeah,
was just like, so I watched him get interviewed and he hated where the footy show was going. They
yeah,
were like tearing the whole thing apart. Aaron was copping a lot of blame.
yeah,
And they said to him, look, don't worry, you're not on the footy show for the next year. You're on Channel 9. We'll find something for you to do. And he was like, screw this. So then he's gone over to Channel 10,
yeah,
had a big deal sitting there with them for 5 years, walked back into a meeting with Channel 9 and basically said, right, oh, look, I'm happy to leave. You want me to leave? You don't want me to do anything? Just pay me the final year and I'll go. And they
yeah.
said, oh, you happy with that? And he's like, yeah, because he'd already signed a 5 year thing over
With
here.
10, yeah.
And they paid him out the whole year. And now he's doing, what is it, like the Amazing
The
Race or
Amazing
something?
Race, he's the
Yeah.
host of, yeah, and
Yeah,
he's
wow.
on radio occasionally. What
Yeah.
was he on? I heard him on some station. It might have been SEN or something like that. But a lot of the footy players and that are all on SEN at the moment. So, but yeah, I mean, he was just classic, mate. I mean, and the songs he used to do. I don't know if you remember the songs, but he when he left the Tigers and went to the Sharks,
That's
he
right.
yeah
Yeah.
he did the
Yes.
parody of "We're Never Getting Back Together."
Yes, that's
But
right.
he
With
called it
Benji. Benji was
with
in the
Benji.
tiger suit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chris
Yeah.
Hyington
Yeah.
was in it, and
Yeah.
he had Timmy Moulton and all that, and then
That's
yeah,
right.
he was at Cronulla and he had like the shark on his what. But yeah,
On
it
you
was
know what? Yeah.
mate.
Yeah. No, it was
He was a classic Bowie, and I miss it, mate. We need to bring it back. I mean, that's what this show is now. We'll call it the rugby league show instead of the footy
the
show.
reminiscing. Yeah. Yeah.
Reminiscing, but mate, it's been good to reminisce as always. I'm just gonna have another sip of my Coca Cola because it's great.
How is your no sugar Coke, mate?
Hey, you know what? It's great, and I
Nice.
won't get fat. So I just
Nice. No sugar.
yeah, no sugar. I
Love,
mean, I probably
love it.
don't really need it. I'm pretty energetic as it is. But how's that beer?
It's good, mate. Yeah, I've got a couple of mouthfuls to go and I'm done.
Beautiful,
So this
going
will be the
down the hatchet very well.
only one I've had for the weekend. So for about a week and a bit now. So
I love it, mate. I
no, it
love
feels
it.
nice.
Well, that's about it for Two Blokes with Beer and a Podcast tonight. I'd
Cool,
just
mate.
like to say thank you for tuning in. You can find us on Facebook, Two Blokes with Beer and a Podcast. We're on Spotify under the Ruck Infringement Podcast. So check it out there. Like, follow, subscribe. You know what to do. We're also up on YouTube as well, so check that out. Look, Craig's going off to finish his beer. I'm going to probably go and have dinner and sort out the child, and then, yeah, have a good night. And remember, be good to your mum.